to order at 6:04, and Kathleen will do the honors.
All righty. I just had that pulled up. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Library Advisory Board meeting. We're glad you're here. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Due to recent changes to Oregon Public Meetings Law, our meetings will now be recorded. Once the video is processed by the city's web team, it will be published on our board's webpage for public viewing. All public attendees are invited to participate in the meeting at the designated opportunities. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, use the raise hand function on Zoom to indicate so, and we will unmute your microphone for you to share. You can also use the chat feature at any time or submit a question using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen.
Okay, I think we can do introductions now since Jennie hasn't met any of us before and we haven't met her. And I guess maybe Anne hasn't met new members. So we will do that first. And I'm going to just take my screen in clockwise order, which may not be the same as your screen. So I'll ask everybody to unmute yourselves, please. And we'll start with Andrew.
The last, just this year, and an alternate before that. Was there anything else you wanted to know?
I think that's enough for tonight. I should have said first, before the introductions, there's a voters forum tonight, as Kristin had mentioned in the email she sent out to us. And and none of us, in fact, had thought of that or were aware that it was on the same night as our scheduled meeting. Voters forum starts at 7. Well, it's scheduled at 7, and by the time they actually start, probably figure about 7:10. And I would guess the mayoral candidates are on first. And if some of you would like to leave a little early for that, you're certainly welcome to. But we'll try to wrap up the meeting as quickly as we can tonight so that people do have time for that. It will also be rebroadcast. So if you do miss it, you'll have a second chance. And I did want to say, if you do plan to participate in the forum, feel free to ask any of the candidates you'd like if they would have the courage to restore the library budget to its peak level at the expense of another department's budget, or anything similar you would like to ask. Okay, so thank you, Andrew. We'll just do the quick introductions, and May, you're next.
May, it's your turn to introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm May. I became the members here since April, I think. And all the meetings that I attend through Zoom. And so I'm a volunteer of the library once I moved to Beaverton, and I'm here for only two years, but I'm glad to have a way to participate in the community. It's okay.
Jennie?
Hi, I'm Jennie Chamberlin, and I'm an adult services librarian at the library. I've been with the library since 2014.
Sara Larson.
You're muted, Sarah.
You're not muted. Your mute symbol's gone.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can.
Now we can.
Okay. My name's Sarah. I'm actually originally from Illinois. I moved out to Beaverton a couple of years ago and fell in love with the local community and library. So this is my first year serving on the board, and I am learning so much.
Great. Anne?
Hi, I'm LaVallee. I've actually worked at the library since 1997. And just a fun fact, the first day that I came to work, I met Kristin Fidler. So I've known her for a very long time.
Glenn?
Hi, everyone. I'm Glenn Ferdman. I'm the Beaverton City Library Director and recently celebrated my 2nd year here on the job.
Alicia.
Hi, I'm Alicia, and I've been a part of Teen Library Council, and I've been a part of that for about 3 years now, and this is my second year leading.
Sara.
Hi, I'm Sara. I'm with the board for 4 years. It's lovely to be on the board to serve for the community. Thank you.
Kathleen.
Hi there, I am Kathleen. This is my second year on the board and my first year as serving as vice chair.
Brad, if we can hear you.
How about in chat? Can you type in chat, Brad? The bottom of the screen, there's a little pop-up. This is chat. You see that? If you take your mouse, go down to the bottom of the screen, hover, you should see a toolbar pop up. In the middle is an icon that says chat.
Okay, well, while Brad's doing that, I'll introduce myself so we can keep the meeting moving. I'm John. This is my 5th year on the board, my 2nd year as chair, and I thoroughly enjoy it. The next item, we'll skip right ahead to, well, I guess we should approve the minutes first.
Oh, John, I'm sorry. Brad he successfully typed into the chat box. He introduced himself via chat.
Okay, great. So everybody can click on chat and read Brad's introduction. Let's first approve the minutes from last month's meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to do so? Or do you have any changes first? Either way.
A motion to approve.
Can I get a second? May? Okay, great. Okay, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, the meeting minutes from September are approved. We'll move on, skip ahead to One Book, One Beaverton. So Anne and Jenny don't have to stay through the entire meeting. If you have other things you need to be doing or would like to be doing, that's fine with us. And you're more than welcome to stay as well. This is our 3rd year doing One Book, One Beaverton. And in the past 2 years, we've been so lucky as to actually get copies of the book when the current year's program has been introduced to us. That's not so easily done this year. So I'll turn it over to you two.
Okay, thanks so much, John. So Jenny and I are here today to talk about One Book, One Beaverton. As John said, it's our community-wide read event and to announce the book choice for 2021. So this will be our 3rd year of doing the program, and we have had an overwhelmingly positive response from the community the last 2 years. So most of you are probably familiar with how a community-wide read works, but I'll just give a brief overview for those of you who may not be familiar. So a community-wide read is when a library chooses a particular book and then invites the entire community to read it at the same time. It's kind of like a book club for the whole city. So here are some dates to keep in mind for our upcoming One Book. On November 1st, we will announce the title to the public. And normally we would reveal the title at the library with a big display of the book cover. But of course, this year is very different. The countdown and the reveal will take place on social media. And then on Saturday, November 14th, we will have an outdoor kickoff event where we will give away 450 free copies of the book. And some of those will be in Spanish and some of those will be the young adult adaptation. Then in January, we'll have a month's worth of programming related to themes from the book. And as of now, we are planning to have all of those programs happen remotely. But if it became possible for us to have events in the library, we would, we have room reservations, and we would be able to pivot to that and have events in the library. And now I'll turn it over to Jennie, who's going to talk about our choice for 2021.
Okay, you all are a very specialized group that gets this information before the rest of the public. So gotta keep it under wraps for now until November 1st. Okay, so this year's book is Just Mercy, A Story of Justice and Redemption by Bryan Stevenson. Just Mercy is a memoir about Stevenson's work as an activist lawyer who represents low-income clients in the Deep South, many of whom are on death row or who are facing life sentences, and many of whom were sentenced when they were juveniles. The author, who you may be familiar with, is co-founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, which works to end mass incarceration, excessive punishment, and racial inequality. So the main thread of the story follows the arrest and subsequent wrongful conviction of Walter McMillan, who is an African-American man from Georgia who's falsely accused of killing a white woman. And although there is no real evidence tying Walter to the crime, in fact, there's evidence against him being the person who committed the crime, he's sentenced to the death penalty. The author, who at the time was a young lawyer who had just founded the Equal Justice Initiative, takes on McMillan's case and works tirelessly to get his conviction overturned. It's an incredibly compelling and moving book that has an ultimately hopeful message, which we think makes it a perfect book for a community-wide reading program like One Book, One Beaverton. We chose it because we believe it adds a meaningful dimension to conversations around racial justice that many Americans and probably many Beavertonians are already having right now in their daily lives with their friends and their family. So we hope that readers will connect with the story, will talk about it with their neighbors, and maybe even be spurred to take action of some kind. So as Anne mentioned, we'll be announcing the title to the public in early November, and then we'll start handing out free copies on Saturday, November 14th. Just wanted to give you an example of some of the programs we're going to be doing. As one example, we're going to be hosting a panel of local nonprofits who either work directly with incarcerated people or who are advocates for criminal justice reform in some way. And so each organization will have time to share about the work they do and also let people know how they can get involved and how they can help. Because we figured once people read this book, they're gonna wanna know how they can advocate and how they can help. And then for our closing keynote speaker, since it's pretty unlikely, sadly, that we are gonna be able to get the author, Bryan Stevenson, this time around for obvious reasons, we have invited Bobin Singh, who is the executive director of the Oregon Justice Resource Center. And the work he does here in Oregon is pretty parallel to the work that Bryan Stevenson is doing in the South. So he'll be talking about some of the issues that are brought up in the book and how they apply in our region, which I think will be pretty fascinating. We are also going to be hosting a journal drive in conjunction with Right Around Portland. So we're going to invite people to donate journals, like blank journals, that will end up being distributed in prisons to incarcerated people who are participating in some of the writing workshops that Right Around Portland sponsors in correctional facilities. So John, you mentioned free copies of the book. We would love to get you free copies of the book. So I think the easiest thing to do is I'm going to put my email address in the chat. You can email me if you would like a free copy of the book. I will put the copy under your name on our library hold shelf, and then you can come pick it up during our open curbside hours, if that works for everybody. So I'll put my email in the chat. Just shoot me a quick email and we'll make sure to get a book into your hands. And thanks for the opportunity for letting us crash your party here tonight.
Oh, thank you very much. It sounds like a fascinating book. I'm really looking forward to reading it. Does anybody have any questions for Jennie and Anne?
I do actually.
Kathleen?
You mentioned a young adult adaptation of the book. Is there any significant differences between the young adult and an adult version, or are there going to be different young adult events and adult events?
Great question. The one young adult focused event we have right now is a book discussion that will be put on by our teen librarian, Ian. He's going to invite the TLC and any other teens that want to participate. Other than that, we don't have any teen focused events, but most of the events that we have would be appropriate for teens anyway, if they wanted to participate. We last year were able to partner with the schools in Beaverton, the high schools. And we had the author go to the school and attend a class, creative writing class, and also he spoke at an assembly, which was amazing. This year, because we feel like teachers are just so burdened by just their daily existence, we just weren't able to make that partnership, happen this year. As far as, I haven't actually looked at the young adult edition. My guess is that, so in the regular copy of the book, there's the story of Walter Macmillan, and then there's all of these other short chapters that are about some of his other clients. And I would guess that what the young adult version is that, things might be toned down a little bit, and it probably cuts out a lot of those extra chapters and just follows that one thread. Yeah. Thanks for your question.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just switched computers. Apparently big wonder, there's some kind of microphone issue with that, but all right.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you both for joining us tonight and for what sounds like a really interesting selection this year. I really hope will accomplish its purpose and get people talking, even if it can't bring people together in the library as it has in the past.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your support.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Jennie.
Bye, Glenn.
We appear to have no public forum tonight, and so we'll move on to the partner reports. We also have no city councilor here tonight, as you may have noticed, which doesn't surprise me in the least, as she is undoubtedly preparing for the voters forum tonight, and is a little busy doing that. So I wasn't really expecting her to show up. We'll move on to the partner reports then. Alicia, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So for TLC, we're just kind of sticking with like creating more competitions or let's say contests for people online, and just having maybe some like events online. And then for like the teen art show, from what I've heard from Ian, is that there's going to be a online gallery that'll be open for about 2 weeks, so students can start sending in their artwork, I believe by October 25th. And I think it's only one piece this year though, instead of 2 pieces. So that'll be open for about 2 weeks to vote on, and it'll be about the same in terms of voting, and all that will be about the same. And then as for like everything else, we're still just trying to like get sort of a handle on how to like do all these meetings, since with the whole COVID thing going on, we're just trying to figure out what more to do. But that's about where we're at right now.
What about the podcast? Are you still doing that?
Oh yes, for the podcast, we're still going with the same thing. We're just doing over Zoom instead. So we have one of our people is really good with like the technology, so we've been really thankful to have him. And we just published one of our podcasts about like a week or so ago. So that is now up. That should be a fall themed. We're trying to make them themed for like certain, seasons. And yeah, so we're just doing that and then talking about what's going on in the world and trying to keep things away from, like religion or politics.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions for Alicia? Okay, Glenn, I'll try to break up your pieces so you can tell us what's new with the foundation.
Yes, thank you, John. So the foundation board met last week. They approved and finalized the thank you letter for donations that they receive. And they are working on the a draft of the appeal letter, fall appeal letter, which they hope to send out in the near future. Work continues to identify possible sources for a library bookmobile and mobile Wi-Fi hotspots that could ideally be used in conjunction with the bookmobile to serve underserved portions of the city. In fact, the fall appeal letter will be focused primarily on raising funds for the purchase of a bookmobile. So that's what's happening with the foundation. Oh, and by the way, they're still recruiting for additional members. So if you know of anyone whom you think would be appropriate, please send them my way.
That's a good segue into the Friends report. Kathleen, is the Friends board still looking for members?
They have several leads that they are doing some interviews for. If you are interested, or if you do know anyone that's interested, I'm sure that they would still love additional people to consider for those positions. So please reach out to Roger if you have any friends or anybody that you think would be a good fit for that board. They're a wonderful group of people. I couldn't recommend any board hire except perhaps this one.
And go ahead with any other news you have of the Friends.
Absolutely. So it was a very productive meeting last month. We are losing a manager from the Book Corner, Susan. She is leaving. She is moving. We have a new manager who is taking over. The really exciting news is that funds were approved for the Teen Art Show prizes. And the really amazing news, and this is why they're just such a wonderful, we're so lucky to have them, is we requested funds for 11 mobile hotspots for the library. And when they found out that we requested 11 hotspots, they, without any doubt or any hesitation, doubled the amount of hotspots that they were willing to provide funds for. So they approved funds for 22 mobile hotspots. So we are very, very grateful to them for being willing to fund those for us. In terms of sales, online sales are up. Amazon had an amazing month of sales, and we're continuing to sell books through online retailers and looking for new opportunities to sell books, and that includes some of the Saturday or pop-ups. And if you're not on their mailing list, I do recommend getting on their mailing list because they send emails about when they're having these book sales. I was able to go a couple of weeks ago and pick up some really good books outside, wear masks, social distance. But instead of being able to do the big library book sales, they're primarily focusing on the online sales and the hotspots. So get on their mailing list and get in on that.
Good. Does anybody have any questions about what's going on with the Friends or the Foundation? Okay,
no, thank you. It was happy to hear that we are granted for 22 hotspots, which will help a community and the students especially who needed internet access.
Absolutely. So they we looked up during the meeting how many hotspots do some of these other libraries have, and Tigard has 11 hotspots, and Hillsborough I think has 11 hotspots, and so we need twice as many as these other libraries. Five.
Yeah.
So it was an easy choice.
That's a Beaverton. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, so we've got 2 football teams full. They only have 1. Okay. Glenn and I interviewed 3 candidates to be alternates on next year's board. We have openings for 2, and this afternoon we made our final selections of 2 candidates to recommend to the mayor, and we're very pleased with them. We've got some people who I would expect and hope to become regular members in 2022 when Brad and I will be gone due to term limits. And so we will have openings again next year for alternates, which works out well. We have that transitionary period. Meeting format. Brad, you raised the issue. I'll put the ball in your court here to remind people of what you had asked about the meetings.
Oh, well, yeah, what I asked is just if we could get a meeting notice in conjunction with getting a link to the meeting. The problem that I had before was trying to go way back in time, scrolling through my emails and finding where the link was for the meeting. Actually, today, getting a notice yesterday with the link actually was much better because it's close in time. And then I can find it because I get lots of emails into my personal email, and I don't even really monitor it because there's just too many. I really don't monitor it that closely. So anyway, that was kind of the issue I raised, because the big thing for me was trying to scroll back and remember or find where 20 days ago I got an email from someone else in the city, and it's not labeled like Library Advisory Board and one issue or another, but it was just difficult to find a link to get to the meeting. So.
Glenn, do you want to address that then?
Yes, I would. So thank you, Brad. So just a little background information. So now that the city has migrated to the Zoom government license platform, the way that the boards and commissions folks who set up these meetings, what they do is they create a unique invite for each member of every single boards and commission and send out that unique invite to every member. So we inquired of them to find out, is it possible to instead have one link that we could send to everyone instead of a unique link? And they said, well, technically it's possible, but the reason why they send a unique link is so that if we have, for example, members of the public who wish to attend the meetings, they would be receiving the same link as the boards and commissions members. And so from their vantage point, I think they cited, if I'm not mistaken, security concerns about having one shared link for everyone, including board members as well as the public. But that said, if I remember correctly, and Kristin, correct me if I'm mistaken, or John, I think I also shared the email with you. My understanding was that if this board preferred, they could set it up so that we have one shared link, but understand if they did that, it would be the same link for everyone, for boards and commissions members, as well as members of the public. But on the other hand, if getting the meeting invite, John, to your most recent point, closer to the actual meeting date works for you, then maybe we just stay with that and don't need to do anything else. So those are the couple thoughts, couple options that we have.
Anybody else have any opinions on this?
I don't see a big problem with sharing the link with the public, but I'm just, because we don't have like secret board meetings or anything. We don't have like executive meetings or anything like that. On the other hand, like I said, it's not, I think if we're getting it like a day before or the same day, I'm fine with that too. So I'm not like strong one way or the other. My big thing was not going, having to search back 3 or 4 weeks before, 3 weeks before or whatever, to try to find it. Yeah.
Okay.
Glenn?
Yeah, so Kristin, would it be possible to just follow up with the folks in the boards and commissions division and see if it's possible for them to have that invite sent out just like a day or two before the meeting?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it is their practice to do it a week before and then the day before, but I will verify that and get them to commit to that, of course.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
I think there is one potential benefit to having a separate link for members of the public, which is that we can know in advance that we will have members of the public attending the meeting. But I have no opinion one way or the other. Does anybody else have an opinion? Sarah?
I didn't receive the email, yesterday's email. I received only 3 weeks back, or like whatever that was sent by Rose. That was the first email I received, not for yesterday.
Yeah, there are a couple people in that department. So you might get something from Francisca Rose, and then you might get something, I think yesterday you probably received something from Lonnie Parr. So there are a couple of people in that department who handle those things. And just a little background, you are panelists in this meeting, whereas the public would be attendees. And so you have abilities that the attendees don't have. And I think it's an attempt by the city to keep the meetings secure and safe from anybody who might come and try to take over the meeting, which now in the current system, the public wouldn't have the ability to do that with the same veracity, so.
Thank you.
Sarah? That makes sense to me. And one other item, Glenn had mentioned to me that the city is looking at alternatives to recognize its volunteers on boards and commissions, since the annual banquet seems an unlikelihood for the end of this year. And they were considering perhaps something like t-shirts or coffee mugs or whatever. Does anybody have any thoughts about this? Would you like t-shirts? Would you like to see that money go back into the city budget instead of taxpayer dollars being used to provide us with recognition? What are your thoughts?
That would be nice.
If I could just get a delivery of the cookies that they had last year, I would be happy. Just kidding.
I prefer coffee mug instead of t-shirt.
I'm just glad we're getting that one Beaverton book.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
It's my opinion that if we donate the money for the wildfire fund organizations or to help them rebuild their community, it could be better than what we are going to get at. It's my just opinion, and your thoughts are welcome on
Well,
that.
I agree with Sarah. I don't really feel like I need any sort of recognition at this point. That money can go to other programs.
Yeah, really the community needs to be rebuilt. So from our part or from the library board and commissions, we can say that we want to give it back to our community.
May, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I don't want to have a t-shirt and the money may be used for some other better way, I think.
Well, Glenn, I think we have a pretty close to a consensus here that we really don't need trinkets of recognition, that the money could be better used.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's for your generosity. I will be happy to communicate that back to our boards and commissions folks and recommend that they reallocate those funds for another constructive purpose. So thank you for that.
If they can give for the library as for the budget also, it will be good for us.
I'll inquire, though I think the funds come from the general fund and not the library fund, but I'll inquire to see if they can do a transfer.
Yes, we can have it for the contingency fund.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or they could honor us all by giving us books that we would then donate that are all new releases that the library would be buying anyway.
Yeah, that also be nice. But I just want to ask, how did you manage when the air quality was very bad, the curbside was closed, or how did you manage during that time?
How did we manage to do what?
When the air quality was, when it was smoky around us, it was lasted for a week.
Yes.
So they suggested that we should not go out.
Yes.
Did you have the curbside services, or did you close that event for that week?
Sure, I'd be happy to address that. John, is this a good time to respond?
Sure, because we did close for that.
Okay. Yes, so if you recall, thank you for the question, Sarah. Several weeks ago, we had that about a week or so of poor air quality, and we were monitoring closely the AQI, the air quality index, and based on the Oregon OSHA, so the Occupational Safety Health Administration for the state, set out some, provided some guidelines and said that once the AQI reached 151, that it was unsafe for employees to work outdoors. So for those days when the AQI reached 151 or above, we canceled our curbside service. So we ended up canceling it for probably the better part of a week, I think, or maybe a week. I don't remember exactly. So we actually canceled the service on those days and redirected folks to other resources that they could access online, etc. And then it was on the first day we were able to reopen was a Friday several weeks ago. And as you can imagine, we had a huge backlog of items. It just piled up because folks weren't able to pick up their items. And we had staff out on the curb directing traffic because cars were backed up. We had a line of people practically circling the building or going around to the front of the building, standing in line waiting to pick up their books. And it was a little bit of a madhouse the first day in particular. But we got through it. No one was hurt. I don't believe any tears were shed. There were some impatient people, but that's to be expected. On the whole, however, Beaverton residents, they rose to the occasion and they bravely stood and stoically and sometimes humorously stood in line and waited in line in their vehicles to pick up their items and were very understanding of the situation. And then it took us several days, the better part of a week, to catch up. And staff were pretty tired, you know, during that time because they were essentially doing double and triple duty, trying to make up for lost time. So it was a bit of a rough patch for us, but in the best interests of staff health and safety, we shut down the service during that time. And now we're back into full swing and providing service at the previous service levels.
Well, it's a good thing no tears were shed. That probably spread the virus.
And
Get
yes,
out.
face coverings were worn, so.
Yes. Do you want to go ahead and continue with the rest of the director's report?
Yes, I would be happy to. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Glenn, for the update.
Pleasure. Okay, let me pull that up on my screen. Okay, this is going to be an abbreviated update because, as John mentioned, we do have the voters forum, and so we want to be respectful of those members who wish to attend. So I will hit the highlights. So our reopening planning and activities continue apace. Last week, we reached another milestone, and we scheduled our 15,000th appointment for the curbside service.
Wow.
After just reaching 10,000 about a month ago. So we are rocking and rolling this, and up to 6 days a week. And now we are offering the option to for curbside service, either scheduled by appointment or walk up at both locations. In fact, we launched the curbside service at Murray Shoals branch after the last meeting of this board, and now we've been doing it there for about 3 weeks. Also a hybrid model, so walk-ups as well as scheduled appointments. We have an advantage at the branch in that, for those of you who have visited there or are regular visitors, as I know some of you are, they have a covered walkway that leads up to the front entrance, which is extremely helpful in providing curbside service because it protects the books and other materials, the staff and members of the public from the elements. So we're very fortunate to have that physical setup that really allows us to continue to provide that service even when the weather is inclement. That said, when it rains or is threatening to rain, we have 4 pop-up tents that we bring outside to the curb at the main library. And we're sort of like, you know, we've got like the fire crew, you know, and everyone grabs, you know, something, whether it be a sign or a tent, etc. And we set them up at the curbside. There's a whole process that we go through to set them up and then to dismantle them. And there's a lot of work involved in that, even before we serve the first customer, as it were, at the curb. But at the branch, we're fortunate to have that covered walkway, which obviates the need to do that. We are currently in the midst of planning for opening the library to the public. No dates as yet. At this point in time, we have solicited input from the staff at all levels in a variety of ways, including an all-staff survey that went out several weeks ago. Also input from some of our standing committees, including the Incident Response Committee, the Safety Committee, Labor Management Committee, and others. And then last week we held 10 focus groups on a variety of different topics with staff to solicit additional input on services and logistics for what it would look like to open our buildings once again to the public. That said, we also have received input and guidance from the county's Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Public Health, with whom we conducted a walkthrough of both locations to identify building modifications that needed to be made in order to do that. Our neighbor to the west of us, Hillsborough, launched, or rather they did launch a new service. They're calling Hillsborough HPL Express. And essentially what they've done is, starting this week, is they have brought their curbside service indoors for the winter time. And so they are now admitting members of the public into both of their locations to pick up holds, also access computers for notary services, and to use the restrooms. And with preliminary reports indicate that things are going well, but that since they're not yet offering browsing of their collections, there is some pent-up demand from patrons who wish to do that. But no word yet as to when they might offer that service. So our planning continues. We hope to identify a date very shortly that we can then announce as a target for when we wish to open to the public. And when we do so, we will be doing so on a limited basis, limiting the numbers of people who can be in the building at any one time. The county has provided a rubric or a metric for us, which is one person per 35 square feet. So essentially allowing folks to maintain a 6-foot distance radius around themselves. You want to think of it that way. Some of you may have seen it was some facilities they're doing around the country is they've created these circles that they have placed on the floor to designate where people can be to maintain safe physical distances. And that will be also part of our plan to mark off where people can and cannot be as well. Let's see, county elections. We have partnered, so several WCCLS libraries, including Beaverton City Library, have partnered with the county elections office to provide ballot drop box, as we have in the past. And something new for us here in the city of Beaverton is the county recently provided and the city installed a permanent ballot drop box along Hall Boulevard on the east side, just south of 3rd Street. That will go live, I believe, on Friday of this week, so that folks can begin dropping off their ballots at that ballot box. It's the same location, by the way, where county ballot takers used to collect ballots in a drive-by manner. That has now been replaced by a permanent ballot box. We will also have and made arrangements for a ballot box to be available in front of the Murray Shoals branch location. And that will be staffed by library staff and volunteers. And then this is not for public knowledge, but since we know that people will, because it's happened in the past, wish to drop off ballots at the main library, because we've had a ballot box inside in the past, we will have a ballot box outside the day of the election only until 8 o'clock, staffed by library staff and volunteers for those folks who show up in the front of the library to drop off their ballots. Someone have a question?
I'm sorry, I just said good. I was a little concerned about unstaffed ballot boxes because we've seen people sabotaging mailboxes and stuff. So I'm glad to hear it'll be staffed.
Yes, in fact, all of the ballot boxes at all library locations across the county will be staffed by either library staff, city staff, and or volunteers.
And Jennifer did solicit volunteers in the newsletter she sent out this afternoon.
Good to know.
And then finally, the last item, I want to share some positive feedback that we received from a patron that was sent, I believe, via email as follows. To whom it may concern, I wanted to give some good feedback on the library story times you've been doing online. My son is 3 years old and an avid reader. He really misses the library and is sad that it is closed. When we drove by the library this week, he asked if the library didn't like him anymore. Since his dad works for the fire department, we've been talking a lot about how people are getting sick, and we're trying to keep germs from spreading. So we explained that that's why the library is closed. He understood, but was still sad he couldn't get books or go to story time. He was so happy to do story time online this week. He saw the normal librarians, and it was a routine activity he's used to. At 3 years old, anything vaguely routine right now has been great for his mental health and reduce his stress. We were all clapping, singing, and reading together as a family, and he was all smiles. So in these unique times of COVID mitigations, I'd really like to thank you for getting little bits of normalcy to kids. At least for my son, he's happier after story time every day. It's something I hope you're able to keep up until the stay-at-home order lifts. So that concludes my abbreviated director's report for this month.
I needed to hear that today. That was so cute.
I feel the same way he does.
Oh, yeah, I think that's great. I had a follow-up question. That's really wonderful to hear about the story time, though. I think that can be such a great thing for kids generally, but to be able to do it now, that's really wonderful. I didn't realize that there were notary services available at the library.
Yes, well, actually, I was referring to the Hillsborough's Express service that they launched earlier this week. And they are providing notary services at their location. Beaverton Library, City Library, does not currently provide notary services, although I'm gonna defer to Kristin, who has a little bit more longevity at the library, to ask if that's something that we have offered or used to offer in the past.
We did in the past. We had a staff member who was credentialed to do it, and then when that staff member left, we didn't provide that service anymore. But from working on the reference desk, we did get that question quite often, and we'd send them over to the Beaverton building or to City Hall. Yeah, but we did.
Any other questions for Glenn about anything?
Yeah, when you open the library for the public, if it's the timing is going to be different, or it's the same timing as we used to open before?
Yeah, we've had some conversations about that, Sarah, and we're hoping to be able to open the library, at least the main library, 6 days a week, and pretty close to the same number of hours total. So that's our goal. And then at the branch, we're looking at possibly a 4-day-week operation for curbside, but the timing of the reopening of the branch may be a little bit different, and that may be delayed compared to Maine, because the difference is, since we have the ability to continue with the curbside service there because of the protected overhang, that gives us more flexibility in terms of, or let's put it this way, it creates less of a demand to reopen the facility to the public, since the majority of the members of the public use that location as a pickup location for materials. So consequently, there's less of an immediate need to reopen that facility to the public, but eventually we do hope to do so that we can provide browsing and other services at both locations.
Thank you.
Kathleen, did you have your hand up?
You had a question?
Less of a question, and just as a user of library services, my very sincere, heartfelt thanks. I'm on maternity leave right now, and I live within walking distance of the library, and so I've been walking to the library and seeing the librarians doing the curbside services. I'm seeing the person at the front door for the computer lab. I've been, speaking of routines and normalcy, I've satisfied my browsing instinct by looking at the to-go shelf and just being able to pull books out of the shelf and read the back and then put them back on the shelf has just been a balm to my soul. So I just really, you guys are just doing a phenomenal job, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathleen. I appreciate your feedback, and I'll be happy to share that with the staff. I know that they will appreciate it as well.
Andrew.
Yeah, along the same lines, I did use the walk-up without an appointment thing, and it went great. So that's a real useful thing, because if you're like, oh, I'm free today, but there's no appointments left or there's no slots, it's real convenient to be able to pick a day and just go.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
I found one really great thing about this is usually if I want a book that is at another library in the county, I don't bother to reserve it because I don't want to make a special trip to pick it up. But with the BCL to go, I have all these books that are at other libraries that I have on my for later shelf. And I think I've gotten probably at this point maybe 10 or 15 books from other libraries because I'm picking up 4 or 5 at a time this way. And it's just much, much easier. So, I mean, yeah, you can all do that too, of course.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Does anybody have any other questions, comments? Glenn, we're still only at 7 o'clock. So if you had some things we were leaving out.
Looks like Kristin had a question.
I have one thing. Hi, I was looking at the dates for the rest of the year and I noticed that we had switched because the library is closed November 11th, which is the second Wednesday. The library is closed that day for Veterans Day. So this board will be meeting, I believe y'all chose November the 3rd. And I just wanted to remind everyone about that.
4th.
The 4th, okay.
Yes.
Right. November 3rd's on my mind for other reasons. Thank you very much.
Don't want to meet on that day.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
No, hopefully we won't all be in collective mourning that day.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, we will be meeting on the first Wednesday in November. I just wanted to remind everybody about that. So it'll be 3 weeks instead of our normal 4 until we meet.
Okay, thank you.
To your point, I do have one more item, 1 or 2 that I could share with the board if there's time.
Please.
The first is that work does continue on the build out of the library study rooms. If you will recall, we had identified and put funds in the budget to build out 3 study rooms on the 2nd floor opposite the new makerspace, which is ready to go whenever we can make that accessible to members of the public. We added recently added a 4th study room, or identified a need for a 4th study room in the mystery alcove that would serve double duty as private office space for a social worker who's been working out of the library from Community Action for the occasion that she needs to have a private meeting with clients. So we've had 3 facilities have been coordinating this effort, has reached out to 3 local contractors to bid on the project, and met with all 3 and hope to have their bids submitted fairly soon, and then select the contractor and then begin work potentially as early as the end of this year. And then the last item I had was that the work on the feasibility study for integrating the book corner retail operation into the library is nearly complete. We've come up with an alternate plan to expand the retail footprint of the Friends book sale operation inside the library to extend along the built-in wooden bookshelf where we currently have pamphlets and other stuff like that, newsletters and things, to increase their capacity by about 2 or 3-fold, and then also identify space in the lobby, in the cutout space, where they could also do point-of-sale items, either books and potentially even library branded material, using some type of mobile collapsible shelving unit, which is similar to what you've been to the Central Library at the Fort Vancouver Regional Branch, their Friends group uses. And then in addition, we have identified a shared processing space in the back of the library, plus additional storage space for their excess inventory. And then this is all contingent, of course, on the sale of the book corner property. Negotiations continue with the developer, and the quote for the work in the library to accommodate all the retail sales and all the spaces that I mentioned would come to approximately 1/3 of the appraised value of the Book Corner property. So it's well within budget, and the remaining funds would go into the library trust fund, which could be used for build out of the additional portions rather of the library space plan.
That's good news.
And
Any other
maybe.
questions? Well, I wore this button because it's October, and I realized nobody can see it at this size, so I'll try that.
Nice.
So our next meeting then will be, thanks to Kristin, because I never would have remembered, November 4th. And if you wanted to watch the voters forum online, there's a link in the newsletter Jennifer sent this afternoon, and also one in the email message Kristin sent in the city news document. It's also on television, for those of you who have televisions.
How it is broadcasted in television, I have never seen the city meetings. Do we have any specific channels to be, or we have to tune it? I don't know how to watch it in TV. I have never done that before.
Kristin, do you know the answer?
You know, I don't know the answer. I assume it's public access, but I do have the flyer that I think just came today. I can look at it real quick. It's just.
Okay.
Kristin, isn't it true that if you click on the link, you could watch it on your computer or or a cell phone or a smartphone? Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I had been talking about. But if people don't want to watch it on television, that is also an option.
Shoot.
I'll see if I can pull this up quickly.
Handy, but let me see.
Yeah, the community access cable network. I don't know what the local channel would be.
It's channel 30 in English and 28 in Spanish.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
John, you're
Thank
hired.
you.
Yeah.
Add you to our reference staff.
Excellent. Excellent.
Well, my resource was Kristin's email with the city news. So we actually all had that information. It just takes a librarian to find it sometimes.
Touche.
Good. Anybody else have any questions, comments, topics for future meetings? Anything you would like to talk about? It's 7:07. I seriously doubt the voters forum has even gotten to the first candidate. So we still have maybe a couple of minutes if you'd like to discuss something.
So how is the makerspace coming up?
So, Sarah, the makerspace has been completed. The only problem is we can't admit anyone into it because we're not open to the public. And based on the county's guidelines, we could have a maximum of 4 people in that space under current conditions.
So when you reopen, people can use it?
Well, when we initially open to the public, that space will not be accessible, but it could be available at some future date, but we don't have that date determined. So the initial reopening of the building will be, services will be limited, most likely to things like browsing, computer access, picking up holds. And then later on, we are hoping to expand the list of available services, potentially including the makerspace, provided that we could do so in a way that's safe for both members of the public and the staff.
Would we be able to like see it by video or something so that we can, we've been talking.
What we can do is maybe for an upcoming meeting, we could do share a video of it. And so, yeah, we could do that. Let me make a note to, can ask our Yaz team if they could maybe create a video for us And then we could share that with the board in advance. Would that work?
That'd be cool, I think. I mean, we've been talking a lot about it.
Great. I'd love to see it.
Thank you, Glenn.
All right, we'll work on that.
I just had one quick question. Oh my gosh, I'm Alicia. You had said, I just wanted to clarify, were you guys looking for like ideas to engage teens? Because that's just something that I might mull over and come back with some ideas next meeting.
In terms of like, yeah, we are trying to think about what we can do to engage definitely the public. I know some of the stuff we've kind of thought about was related to like college applications and mental health, since those are big right now. So what we're kind of looking for is like things that distract, but also things that are really helping out right now during this pandemic.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that, Sarah, because you reminded me of something I've been meaning to ask. This is also for Alicia. I remember a year or two ago, I couldn't tell you when, because I don't remember very well, when Ariba was at one of our meetings, and she was talking about something that certainly couldn't be done right now, but could be done in the future, that the Teen Council was looking at some sort of a group activity, possibly something like a talent show. And I wondered whatever happened to that idea.
I think it just never really continued on. I think that'd be a really good idea to like see if we can do that. Because I think one thing we're really working on is, because if we did something more social with teens, it wouldn't really work because it's over Zoom. People get really awkward. But I think a talent show would work, since no one really has to talk to each other. They just present. So I'll write that down.
Although Zoom, you have the issue with microphone quality for somebody who wants to sing or play an instrument. That could be a little problematic.
But we could do pre-recorded videos, like they would make submissions of their talent skit and then kind of put them together and present them. That would be a good idea.
That would work, because right now we're just doing like basic kind of contests, like best photography or best art, etc. Not really anything with multiple different kinds of talents, so that would work.
Cool. Okay, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I just wanted to put it out there for you. And, you know, it's something you can discuss at your next meeting, perhaps. I think it would be great for people to enjoy, just like we're all watching Kathleen with the baby right now. For people to watch a teen talent show would be really nice diversion in these times.
Yeah. This online has helped a lot of parents to take care of their kids as well as attend any meetings. And also with the same thing with the kids, attending online meeting can have an eye over, and yeah, the parents, those who are not driving, also can benefit out of this online services. Thank you. Keep up doing your online, even if you reopen. That was most of the parents' expectations.
Sorry if I'm being distracting.
No, don't apologize. She's so cute.
At every meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have one new board member.
Yes.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Oh my goodness.
Hi.
What's your name?
Penelope.
Penelope. Hello, Penelope.
Beautiful.
I can't remember if you might have been at the city council meeting where we did our presentation, and when Maureen was on the board.
Yes, I was.
And her little boy was so excited. He was in the back of the room with Daddy. And when Maureen was doing her part of the presentation, he got very excited. And Maureen apologized for the interruption to the council. And Lacey Beatty said, never apologize for being a parent, or something to that effect, which was very nice. Good. I'm just going to remind you before you close out, if you didn't get Jennie Chamberlin's email address, for the instructions to get your free copy of the book, make note of that before you leave the meeting tonight. It's in the chat.
And if you lose
Okay.
that piece of paper, you can always just email me and I can get it to you too.
You are a
Oh,
saint.
okay.
It was lovely to see you all tonight.
Ditto.
Great. Well, I'm glad you're back. Sorry you had to miss last month for
It's
sad
okay.
reasons.
Yeah, it's all right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody. I
you.
think we had a good meeting tonight, especially for a short one. There being no further business, I will call the meeting adjourned at 7:14. See you on November 4th.
Bye.
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 Happy Halloween. Thank you.
Don't forget to
Thank you,
vote.
everybody.
Thanks, Kristin. Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night. Thanks.
You too.
Go check the chicken. Stop.